last poem just pretty much said it all about who Harvey was. So I want to thank you for that. And, you know, all over the country this weekend, people are remembering Harvey Milk. And there's going to be marches and rallies and fancy cocktail parties and dinners, but I think this is probably the coolest one of all. And I'm so glad I was able to come here and be with you. I remember this when it was Douglas School. I hitchhiked up to San Francisco back in 1973. I lived up at 20th and Diamond for a while, and then for a long time I lived over 593A Castro Street, a couple doors up from where the camera store was. Before I say anything else, I want to acknowledge Alan Baird. Alan, could you please stand up? I wonder if any of the young people here can tell me what a Teamster is. There's a union, a very strong union, and Alan Baird was a Teamster organizer. So you guys know about labor unions. You guys want to sit down here? Can anybody tell me what a labor union does? Who do labor unions fight for? Yes. That's very good. They fight for the workers. They fight for the people in our country who don't have a whole lot of money and a whole lot of power and could use a little bit more of both. So the labor unions are the organizations that give working people power. And Alan Baird was working with the Teamsters, and he had a project called the Coors Beer Boycott. Because there was a beer called Coors, and I know none of you are old enough to be drinking any beer yet, at least I hope not. But there's a beer called Coors, and the people that were making that beer didn't respect the rights of the workers. They treated them badly, and they had racist hiring policies. They wouldn't let African Americans have good jobs, they wouldn't let Latino people have good jobs, and they didn't like gay people at all. And the Teamsters were trying to fight back against this company, and they used something called a boycott. And a boycott is when you refuse to buy the products from the company that you're fighting with. Right now I work for the Hotel Workers Union, and we've got a boycott of some of the hotels downtown. We don't want people to stay there. So Alan Baird's job was to bring the Coors Beer boycott to San Francisco and to the rest of the country. And he teamed up with Harvey Milk. Now, your parents can understand how exciting and interesting that was for us at the time. I remember thinking, well, we're either going to make history or get something knocked out of us, because the Teamsters had, not been necessarily the most progressive on some issues. But that was the beginning of the alliance between organized labor and the LGBT community. And it made history. We got Coors Beer out of every gay bar in North America. How many of you have seen the film, Millk? So I want you to know I was that cute back in those days. And, but I think what I most want you, and especially the kids, to know about Harvey, and I'm not going to take much more of your time, but there's a few things I do want you to know about Harvey that are important for you to understand. And the most important one of all is that he was an ordinary man. He wasn't a saint. He wasn't a genius. He was special in the way that each one of you is special. But what he really had that mattered the most was a big heart that was filled with love for all different kinds of people. He fought very hard for gay people, but his love was for all different kinds of people, and he talked about it every single day of his life. He said, if all of the us's can get together, we can win. So he cared about old people, he cared about gay people and black people and brown people, he cared about people with no money, he cared about refugees, he cared about people who were being hurt by war, he cared about all different kinds of people. And that was what made him so powerful. You've been talking about some very famous people here today, and I knew some of those people. I went to church with Mrs. Parks. I got to know Rosa Parks. I got to march with Cesar Chavez. When I went to South Africa, I got to meet Nelson Mandela. And I'll tell you, all of those people are ordinary people. And you may think of them as being sort of like rock stars or something. But what you need to know is that every one of you can accomplish as much as all of those people did. Believe it, it's true. Every one of you has the ability to make that kind of difference. And I also want you to know that Harvey loved kids. He loved all different kinds of kids. I was one of many kids that he helped and mentored. And meeting him was probably the most important thing that ever happened in my life. Now, I want to say a few words to your parents about this little item, the bullhorn. Okay. I want to be clear with you on a few points here. Back in '96, I had been sick for a long time. And I think one of the things I love the most about being here today is just seeing this new life here in a neighborhood that suffered so horribly for so long. And I know many of you were here during those times. In my case, by 1985, almost everybody I knew was dead or dying, and I didn't think this neighborhood would ever come back. And so it's really wonderful. But I've been sick for a long time, and I had to move out of here and go south into dry, warm air. And I loved Sandy so much. You know, she was just an amazing, amazing woman. And so we were talking one day, and I told her I was heading south, and we didn't speak the words aloud, but we both, you know, knew it was possible I wasn't coming back anytime soon. And so I asked her to hold on to the bullhorn, but I told her I was going to come back and take it back. All right? I cherish that bullhorn. Every time I see it, it reminds me of my youth and of hope and the promise that this neighborhood gave the rest of the world. So it's up to you guys to continue that, and I'm sure you're going to. And thank you so much for inviting me here.